Hi, everybody. Will here with this week's interview chairs. I have my very good friends, Chris and John Heartz from Crescendo Pomeranians. So it'll be exciting to hear about their breeding program. And John was a handler, so we'll get to hear about John. John was growing up for me. John was one of the most famous handlers me looking up to. So it'll be great to listen to him talk. Hi, everybody. Will here with this week's interview chair. And on the chairs, it's two chairs this week. It's John and Chris Heartz from Crescendo Palms. Probably in my lifetime, the most famous palm kennel. So, how are you guys?
Great, Will. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you both. How are you, John?
I'm fine, thanks. And I hear you're getting better.
Well, Chris messaged me that you couldn't wait for this interview. You were let's get it done now. I mean,
yes, that's exactly true.
Because we all know
that I'm a social butterfly.
He's a behind the scenes kind of guy.
But you don't realize what an impact you had on people like me and other handlers in my generation because you were so good at what you did. And then when you would show up in Ontario showing dogs, we would take notice. And there's John Heartz. And like a couple of your dogs are some of my favorite dogs. So your beagle dog that you showed from Australia, I love that dog. So, he's quiet now.
Yeah. He can't remember that.
All right, let's get started on the palms and tell me what year and how did you get started in this sport? Either one of you.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, 1970 was when I bought my first palm. He was a pet, but I did show him in obedience. That's how I met John, because all my friends in obedience said, "Go ask John if he thinks you could finish that dog." So I got up my nerve and I marched over to him and I had him look at the dog and I said, "Do you think I could finish him?" And do you know what he said?
No.
"You can finish anything as long as you show it." And the rest is history. But yeah, he was.
So you got your first palm before you were even together. So
yeah. We didn't. We got married in 78, so that was 70, and I guess we bred our first litter, and it was born in the closet at John and Rod's house because I was living at home at the time.
Wow.
And had never bred anything in your life.
I had never bred anything. No, it took me 7 years to get that together. So there was a huge space of time. I bought the bitch that was the mother from Georgia and John Murdoch.
Okay.
And that was a long time ago. And then when we bought Medallion from the Millers, that was when.
What year was that when you bought Medallion?
77.
Give us his full name.
Millamore's Rock Medallion.
Yeah.
So he was really for us the pivotal dog, because at that time to be able to breed to anything, there was nothing we were really interested in breeding. And I had spent those 7 years either buying bitches and giving them away as pets because I didn't feel they were good enough to breed, or we didn't have a dog to breed a bitch, even if we did have a good bitch. So I finished several bitches, but constantly looking for that dog that would make it all happen.
And she didn't have enough connections to get a reply from the Millers, but I knew a friend of the Millers, so it ended up that we made connection with them. And
you were at the Corgi specialty.
Yeah, Medallion was I said to Chris, I said, do you want a diamond or do you want a dog? Because I can't get both right now. So she said, I'll take the dog. So we got Medallion, and he won 10 Best in Shows. So that's not bad for buying your first dog.
I still remember the ads. I can see them in my head. So
yeah, exactly.
Linda Torrance showed him. That was one of her first clients.
Yeah.
We were with him.
Yeah. That was a long time ago, but yeah, she had him for, I think, a year.
She had him for a year.
Linda had him for a year.
Oh. Yeah, only because John was handling. It was too much of a conflict, and that was an issue for the first 10 or 15 years that we bred the Poms, but we really couldn't show them because it was a conflict of interest with John's
Unless
client.
Chris could go to shows on the weekends because she had a job, a real job.
A real job.
So
yeah, so
Linda had that. That's the same thing with Classica at later time when we were showing her, and it was Chris showing her, or we'd ship her off to Geniacs on the West Coast if the judges were better, and they would show her. So she kept flying back and forth across the country that whole year, and she.
Now, did you bred Classica though, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, we didn't breed Classica.
No. She was Crescendo Classica, but she was born in the U.S.
She was by Judy Green, but she was a puppy back.
Okay. Now, what year was she?
She wasn't by Medallion. She was by Medallion. Was she?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, see why I had to make notes? 1991 was Classica, 25 Best in Shows, and top winning bitch in the history of the breed.
And she was co-owned with Doug Stratton, who's Sonterra Pomeranians.
Yeah. So what year was she born? What year was she? How old was she when she was shown?
91 is when she broke records and became the top winning bitch of all time. So she was, I think, out for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And she was a group winner in the States as well.
Now, was she sired by Medallion? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, where did we go from there? So that wasn't your first litter with Medallion, though, was it?
Yeah, she wasn't by Medallion. She was
by Firestarter.
She was by Firestarter, who was a brother to Great Elm's Prince Charming, who was Best in Show.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then that was sort of
a
cornerstone in our breeding program.
Sure.
Was Classica only ever produced the one dog.
Right. She produced one puppy who was Crescendo Classico, who was a top producer and a Best in Show winner. And he went on to produce most of the Sonterra dogs come down from Classico, and most of our dogs are more from Calvin Klein, which was a Medallion son.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So I'm going to back up a little bit. So you two met when Chris approached you about her bitch.
In 1970.
Now, what happened at that point? Did you just keep bothering her, John, till she said she'd go out with you? Or?
Well, we didn't get married in 1978.
We spent a lot of time together, and we actually met a lot in social circles. And I knew her husband and was friends with the husband, but she wasn't happy, so we moved on.
Yeah. I think. Well, I guess we did. I mean, I worked for John on the weekends, and I don't know. I guess we'd been together, but no one really knew we were together because I went to shows in Bermuda with John, and we were married that weekend. And when I came back to work, someone asked me, who did I marry, Rod or John? They didn't know. So, that was like
that look on John's face.
We got to be quiet. It was like, I don't know. I think somebody thought I just must have done that on a weekend away in Bermuda. Oh, Chris found a boyfriend and married him. But, behind the scenes, we were, we were together.
It was sort of like Elaine Whitney and Bob Whitney when no one knew that Elaine was seeing Bob. But
Except John.
Except I did, because I was up there one time and it says, "What's going on between you and that guy with the Afghans?"
Dog shows are like that, Will.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. There's a whole social thing that no one really talks about. But yeah.
So when you start, how did you decide on Palms?
Oh, I had wanted a Pom since I was probably 10 years old. I mean, for me, there was never another breed. You know, I think I co-owned the Lhasa with Luke and Smackers.
She leased Smackers from Luke.
Right. But never was there anything. It was just so hard to breed Poms. I mean, you know, John always said, they're born with the will to die. We would only have a litter a year for probably the next few years. So it took a long time before we had anything. There were more top winning dogs in the rest of the world that we bred than what we kept. We couldn't, you know, there was just no way to continue to campaign dogs while he was showing them. So we ended up.
Is that how you met Luke? Is you met Luke at the show down there, or when John came up here?
Oh, well, we knew Luke and Lit both since they were like kids.
Luke was in junior handling of this Canadian National Sportsman Show or something where I met him years ago.
Medallion won the group at the Sportsman Show.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
I know. I was.
Really
I just sent a picture to Luke with him showing my cocker and me showing his Lhasa. He's older than me, so I was about 11. He was about 13, I think. So.
Right.
Yeah.
We used to have a lot of fun with Luke because they would often come down for those St. John shows, the 7 days circuit. So usually we would see John and Linda Torrance in every summer at the St. John circuit.
Well, you
were mean to Luke.
Luke would travel in his housecoat and a thing of baby powder.
And John left him on the steps one day. We went to order a pizza and John drove away and he was in his housecoat.
Well, we left him at a truck stop. We left him at a truck stop. He went in his housecoat. We moved the van behind some trucks and let him worry for a while.
John was really good at that. You know,
I'm sure.
John was always playing, you know, I mean, in those days, I guess the mood was a little bit lighter. There wasn't, you know, I can remember him doing crazy things. Like you put a broom, you decorated a broom with toilet paper and left it for Shirley Limoges. And,
Eve Whitmore.
For Eve Whitmore, and said Eve's Transportation or something. You know, Jim Reynolds was judging Springers. And John found a remote control car and sent it in at the end of the line of Springers. And he said, Jim sent them around and there was a remote control car and he stopped judging and he turned around and he looked through the audience till he could find John and just pointed to him. But we can't do that anymore. You know, those like crazy things we used to do. We used to have a lot of fun, and now like it's so serious and
it is.
Hans, they were calling Poms and there was only one Pom enter. So I showed up at the ring and Hans Bernardi was judging, and you know, he's sort of stuffy. I walked in the ring, he turned around and I had a finished Spitz in my hand. I was setting up with a finished Spitz and he looked at it and says, although some may think that is a Pom, I am not one of them.
I can hear him.
But he laughed and I got the Pom and showed it. But we had more fun those days. You know, it's different nowadays.
It is more serious. Yeah, for sure it's more serious. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know, you know. More
strict rules.
Right. Yeah, more.
Yeah. And I think because it's not as much fun, people aren't sticking around as much. So they're missing out on seeing things at the dog shows.
Exactly.
And of course, I had my fox I used to take to all the shows. Did you know
your fox?
Yeah, he had a
Yeah,
fox.
I had a pet fox. It went to all the shows for a whole year. It went to, I'd walk it on a bracelet with my Staffy Bull Special. The two of them would walk together on the bracelet. But I had
How
to
did
keep,
you get a fox?
and
He'll tell you.
a fox, yeah, well,
Yeah. How did you get the fox?
how did I get the fox? Okay, back in the day when they bred foxes for fur, a friend of mine's brother was bred foxes, and he was losing them all. And I said, "Oh well, I can show you how to tube feed them to keep them alive because they nursed them off cats, and the cats didn't have any milk." So I said, "I'll tube feed them for you, and I'll just keep one for doing it." So that's what I did.
So he raised it from the time it was born, practically.
Vicky.
And she was your pet until she
Until
her
she
life?
did it many times, and then she went back.
But she
Oh,
would
okay.
so when she was young, she would sit on the sofa, watch TV with us. Like she was like a cat or a house pet. You know, there was nothing that you wouldn't worry about her. But then at the dog shows, people started complaining that we had a fox. And John says, "You'll have to show me in the rules where it says no unentered foxes." But eventually, but she was in an X-Pen, and you know, she went to every show with them. But eventually, she wasn't a pet either. So,
Oh no.
Yeah,
So-
but now I can't imagine you could do that now.
Oh God, no, you couldn't.
There'd be some reason they'd call
Yeah.
animal control or something for you. You know,
Yep.
you just can't do that stuff anymore. So maybe
Yeah.
that is why.
Our new society, more rules.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Palms now. So we have Classico.
Okay,
He was out of Classica, right?
Uh-huh. And
Where did we go from there? How did you decide where to go?
Before that was Calvin Klein.
I remember Calvin
He was
Klein.
an Italian son, and he was a multi-group winner in the States with Eleanor Miller showing them. And then he came back to us, but he didn't show very well, so we didn't show him much at all.
He won one best in show.
We went to shows one weekend in Ontario. We thought the panel was good. It was Richard Rivera, Emil Klinkhart, Joan Stothart, and he won.
That's a good panel.
And he won the group all 3 days in a best in show under Emil Klinkhart. So we were happy with that. You know, because he was a beautiful dog, probably one of the best dogs we've ever bred, but not a show dog.
He hated it. So we never showed after that. And that happened, you know, that happened a lot. In 1994, which would have been 3 years later, we had Color Picture, who was the black and tan bitch, greatest winning black and tan of all time. And she had 10 best in shows.
And she did 8 of those were in 2 weeks. Two weeks. I think she won almost consecutive best in shows, 4-day shows, 2 weekends.
Yeah.
You know, so she did really well, really quickly. And she was best of winners at the American National.
Under Annie.
Which
was, that for me, that was fabulous.
Under Mrs. Clark. I'm going to say Mrs. Clark because it's amazing some of the viewers that don't remember these people. So
or
Ann Rogers Clark.
Yeah, exactly.
I had another funny thing with Annie Clark. I showed a bitch to her, a puppy called Carlotta. Now, Carlotta was the sister to Bell's Crescendo Carmichael, who was the top palm in the States, shown by Joy Brewster. Now, Carlotta, Annie judged here and loved her and gave her a puppy and show. And then I went to London, Ontario, and she gave her best in show in London, Ontario. In those days, the shows were a little bigger than here than now.
Yeah.
And she had like a reverse scissor, which was common in palms at those days. Bad mouths was just something you had to deal with. And she says to me, she gives me best in show, and she says to me, and that is despite the bite. You know, so she really loved her.
I bet, yeah.
And she was
so is it still an issue? Is our mouth still an issue in palms?
Well, it's always an issue in any breed, and especially toys, because they have little mouths and big teeth, so they just don't fit. You know, but it's not as prevalent as it was.
Okay.
When
So
I
where do we
did
go from there?
when they did the video for the AKC standard, when they did breed videos, the AKC,
Mhm.
well, I was the handler for the Poms, and I was amazed at how many top winning Pomeranians didn't have good mouths.
It was just more common then.
It was
and more accepted,
interesting.
I guess. They're just
I
used to
got
it.
my hands on like all the top dogs, in the States. So interesting.
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. Yes, I was the pick because I was the unknown handler, and they didn't want other handlers handling the dogs, so they chose me.
Unknown handler.
The unknown handler. He had to come in with a black bag over his head. Yeah, so 1995 was Classico after that. And then 2000 was called Arms.
Somewhere there was Marcy.
Right.
Cat call, crescendo cat call. She went to Thailand and won 30 at least 30 Western shows there.
Wow.
She was the greatest winning Pom of all time in Thailand, and that record's still never been broken. And 2000 was called Arms. That was her record. Yeah.
I think we've had a couple go to Australia, to friends in Australia, that both have won Western shows in Australia.
How do you decide your readings? How do you plan them?
Well, this is an interesting thing. We breed within a family of dogs.
You were worried you wouldn't talk.
I know. We breed within a family of dogs, and we don't really go much outside. We look at the dogs that people have bought from us and what they've done with them. And if we like it, maybe we'll breed back to those. In the beginning, we borrowed a lot of dogs that were from the same roots as our dogs. Dogs from the States, Thailand, China, Indonesia. We borrowed dogs and we used those. And but now we look at breeders, and it's not as easy now to breed dogs, ship them on. In the past, I've shipped bitches to Thailand, we've shipped bitches to Poland, but you can't do that now.
Now I don't know how we'd ever. The restrictions again are so tough. It was nothing to work with the group of breeders we worked with. With Doug, in Canada, with a few people in Canada, but more around the world, who the dogs went there, and then we could take a grandson, and we would borrow them for a year. And we had dogs from all over the world, and it seemed to be easier to just return the dog, and
Sure.
It's a relationship you have to have with people. I'm always amazed when people would say, "Oh, I never breeded that dog. I hate the owner." It's so short-sighted because you can't breed dogs on your own anymore. We don't have any more kennels of 100 dogs. And so unless you have relationships with people, you can't breed dogs on your own. I don't care who you are. You have to be able to have relationships with people and be able to work within those families of dogs. If you want to outcross and make those mistakes over and over and over again, you can. But if you work within your family, you don't have a question of who you're going to breed to, because you look at the pedigrees and you get to see the dogs at the national and you say, this dog would work really well with this bitch or whatever. There's never a question of who we're going to breed to. But a lot of people don't work on those relationships, those important relationships. And it's everything to us.
Oh, for sure. And you hear stories about, when I interviewed Brian Casey and Pat Blenke last year, I guess, or was the year before, they were discussing how they chose stud dogs and whatnot. And people won't know the stories, but they even bred to Lana's dogs.
Mm-hmm.
It's because there was something they wanted from Lana's dogs. Now those they did not get along at all at the end.
Right.
So it was, but he
No,
said that's
it's
just the way
important.
it was.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just put your egos aside and you do it. So
yeah, exactly. It's so important too. And it's funny because John said one of the things we don't see anymore are people understanding structure. They buy a dog, they buy another dog from God knows where, they breed them together, and they have to have somebody look at their litter because they've never learned what is good coming and going, what is side gate, because you'd have to read it in a book. There's no videos on it. So we're losing a whole generation of people who don't know anything about structure. And without that knowledge, how can you breed dogs, A, on pedigree, and B, on structure, and combine those over and over and again if you don't even know what they look like when they're supposed to look like when they're in the ring? And there's so many people that don't know that.
And there's so many limitations of what you can keep with dogs now, with all the regulations in different areas, and
sizes of kennels don't even exist anymore. If you can't breed it in your basement or your backyard, it's almost impossible to have a line of dogs.
We have a 30-run kennel, and the only thing in it is 7 Pomeranians. That's all we have, 7 Pomeranians in the kennel.
No more boarding dogs? You're not doing that anymore?
No, in 2000 he stopped boarding.
When COVID started. This is nice. I like this. I'm not doing boarding anymore. I didn't like the COVID, but I like the quiet.
Yeah. Well,
I have another question. I don't know. Have either one of you ever thought about judging?
No, but she tried before, and you can go into it, but the Canadian Kennel Club does not encourage individual breeds. They want you to judge a group. She's not interested. So, but now they've got a new program. We call it the Dinosaur Breeders.
Dinosaur Club.
The Dinosaur Club that may be coming out, where they're talking of letting well-known established breeders, the dinosaurs, apply for one breed. So she will apply for one breed.
Oh, good. But you won't.
He's not. No.
I have no interest. To me, that's doing the same thing. Instead of running around the ring with the dog, it's standing there looking at dogs, trying to find a good one. And when you're running around, you're trying to make them look good. So I enjoy going to dog shows in Europe where I don't know anything about the politics. I can sit and I can look. Well, we were in Sweden, and look at the dogs and see the dogs. And like I came over to you and said, I love that Afghan. Do you think it's nice? And you said you would have given it best in show, in Sweden at that show. And, it's just, that's what I really enjoy, but I can't do it anymore. So I just stay home and look after puppies.
When you came out, what's that?
He's really good at that. He is the
one.
one
I'm sure he is.
Raises puppies. I mean, not raises them from the time that they're up walking, because then that's my responsibility, but actually breeding the dogs. He does all AIs or naturals, whatever. He is a master at breeding the dogs, at physically breeding the dogs. I've missed most of them. Or, that's just what he does really well.
That is a skill. It is a skill.
He feeds them because palms will die. They just rather die than live. And he's really good at raising them. And that is his strength.
We have a really low mortality rate.
Probably lower than most people.
It's almost zero.
Yeah.
But when you came out and judged, I did a handling seminar out there, and John was gracious enough to come out and judge my finale. The way you picked out dogs it was like second nature to you, and you picked out the best dogs every time.
I wasn't judging dogs then, though.
No, I know you weren't, but we were talking later on, and you said this dog and that dog, and exactly how I felt too. Like it was nothing to you, and I think that's where it's important. Where you watch some officials out there, and they him and ha, and they try to talk themselves out of putting up the good ones or whatever. Where it just to you, it was just second nature. That dog there is the best dog in this ring, and it was.
Sure, he should have been judging.
I've always said that the one thing about judging, even if you don't know, be decisive. It's your opinion. Make it look like you know.
Right, exactly.
Because if you're not decisive, it shows you don't know.
Oh, right away. It sends off the signal. That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So.
He absolutely would be wonderful at it, but health-wise, he wouldn't be able to do it. But that's the only reason, because he is fantastic. You take him anywhere. He just can find the good ones. And that's a talent. That's an incredible talent for anybody.
Sure is.
I find them on the property.
That's a talent too. That's a skill of both of yours.
Okay, so back to judging. I am judging the American National next year. So
excellent. I think I knew that though. I think you told me. Yes.
Yeah. So and that to me is like the culmination of a career, really, because I've never won the American National. I've done everything but the breed, but to judge it is a dream come true.
That'll be exciting. And where is it being held?
Louisville.
Oh, it's held there every year?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. I might have to go and watch that.
She's even said I have to go.
Right.
Well, you should probably go, John. I'll go with you and we'll both sit there. And
you can drive together.
I'll stop people from talking to you. And
right.
Well, I've been there many times. I just choose not to go now.
Yeah, it's hard to navigate the airport. Yeah, but so that for me will be an incredible milestone.
Oh, for sure.
And we've often talked and said, is that where you want to leave it? Do you want to just walk away after that? And right now, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we'll do. But
how can you walk away? You produce so many beautiful dogs. Even now, your new generation is beautiful, and I can't imagine walking away.
I know. Well, but that would be an opportunity. It would be one way to walk away from it. But I don't know. I don't know if I'll die with a lead in my hand or if I could just walk away after that. I don't know. But
well, then hopefully you'll have your Pomeranian breed judging, available to you, and you may do some judging. It wouldn't be here; it'd be international.
Right. But I've been invited a lot of times and been unable to do anything about that because of the regulations here.
Our friends, she judged the Northern Pomeranian Club of England Open Show, which is bigger, it's 100 and some pounds. And the same people who had to do that tried to get the Kennel Club to allow her to give CCs at a show, and they wouldn't do it because she wasn't approved here to judge Pomeranians. So, but she's judged sweepstakes in Thailand. She's judged open shows in Croatia. Yeah.
Well, that'd be fun.
But she does other kinds of seminars too.
Well, I look forward to watching it, Judge. So it was great.
The only thing I need to do is be decisive.
I'm sure you're decisive.
You're good at that. She's fast. Anytime I've seen you judge sweepstakes, she's fast. Decisive.
Well, but I mean, if I don't know what I like by now,
exactly.
I'd never be judging, right? I mean, I think it's really important. Yes, there are times when there are two equal dogs, but there's not that many times.
And yeah, it's hard when there's two equal dogs. Different things come into play at that point. So
exactly,
personal preference.
Yeah. Well, exactly, or condition, or showmanship, or
right, exactly.
They have to be equal. So but you're still actively breeding now because I see you showing dogs and whatnot.
Yes, we are. Yeah. No, and we think we feel we have some of the best puppies. We don't have many of them, but a couple of the puppies we have right now, we feel are probably some of the best we've ever bred. And we're
Well,
excited.
that's the way it should be, right?
Exactly. We're excited about
it. It gets harder year after year. We're like 15 or 16 generations of our own dogs. And you set the bar higher each time as time goes on because you had a nice one. Well, you want a better one. Well, you want a better one. So it just gets harder and harder to please yourself.
It's funny because when you see prominent breeders like yourselves, some of them, when they hit that point, their best dogs are behind them. Right. And it's almost sad to see, right? You think, oh my God, remember the dogs they used to have, and so your consistency is what's keeps you apart from other people, I think. So,
well, I think we just keep trying to breed better dogs, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge for us,
and we play off of each other. I mean.
No, you don't.
We do.
I constantly tell her she's wrong.
Constantly am walking dogs up and down that driveway, and he's saying, no, I don't like that one. No, or I don't know what you don't see in this one, or we constantly play off each other. We'll repeat a breeding because we really believe in it, even though the first time we got nothing. But the next time we did get something, and it's that feeling that those two dogs need to be bred together. And sometimes it doesn't work, right? But
sometimes it doesn't work in your repeat breedings, I'll tell you. We sold a dog to China he was a best in show winner also, a really nice dog. And it's one of the dogs I regret selling now. And we said, okay, we can repeat the breeding. Well, no, it didn't work. There was nothing that was even finishable.
No, and yet the previous litter was unbelievable. So, it works both. It can work both ways. The repeat sometimes isn't as good, or you did it and you didn't like the puppy, but we're going to do it again because we believe so strongly that those two should be bred together. And then the second time, it does turn out. So there's that too, but we don't believe in the old adage, stupid is doing it the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different result.
Because in dogs.
Right. Because you see that so many times, somebody having two dogs that really shouldn't have been bred together ever, and they keep breeding them together or keep doing the same stupid thing. And wondering why they're not getting the results they hope to get.
Well, it's because they're stupid.
Well, that's what I mean. That's the definition.
If you look back at your plan, like you went through some bitches before you decided to breed. This one's not good enough. This one's not good enough. Where most people start this sport, they buy a bitch and they spend the next 20 years trying to fix the bitch they bought 20 years ago.
I know. You're behind the 8 ball if you buy a bad one.
Right.
You got all these generations to make it breed up to a decent one that you could have bought in the first place.
Right.
So it's stupid. I mean, our first bitch was a really top quality bitch, and she finished, but she wasn't a great bitch. But she was a good pedigree for Medallion, and her first puppy won best in show. In fact, 10 best in shows.
Right. And so did her second.
So did her second puppy. From 2 different litters. So, it was a good start.
Yeah. Well,
I have a question for you because you were relatively new when you got Medallion. You weren't new, but you hadn't had a dog of that quality yet.
Right.
When did he arrive on a plane? Did you go down and get him? What did you do?
We went down and got him.
Yeah. And
so what did you
repeat breeding of a dog we loved. So that's why we wanted him.
And he was sired by the dog she absolutely adored.
Yeah, he was always for me, he was always the most beautiful dog.
Which dog was that?
Millimore's Moonrock.
Okay.
John always described him as, he moved like a tumbleweed. We always imagined what a tumbleweed moved like, but
He was really smooth, and they're supposed to be circular, so he just flowed along. You know, he's a beautiful moving sound dog, multiple group winner, and a great producer.
Right.
But,
So when you got Medallion home,
right.
even on the way home, how did you feel? Do you think, how did we get so lucky to get this dog? Or how did it feel when you have a dog of that quality for the first time?
Well, he was sort of an ugly duckling.
He was ugly duckling.
Was he?
Yeah, he was. He was an ugly duckling.
He was gangly, and but he ended up being a really sound, super moving dog. He was, to say what was wrong, he was a bit plain in the face, but he was a wonderful producer.
Oh, he was an amazing producer. He really changed the breed in this country. There were no great breeders in this country. This dog could be bred to anything. Medallion could be bred to anything and produce dogs. I mean, there are a number of breeders across the country who their first ever breeding was to this dog, or the first time they ever outcrossed to a dog. And he just produced so many champions and put a lot of people on the map. And their breeding programs were based on this dog. He made a huge influence.
It's amazing there's dogs like that just tend to fix things, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's what we love, our dogs that no matter who they're bred to, they fix problems or they make them better, improve on the bitches.
We have a dog, Jill Taylor and I have a dog we call the repair shop. He's a repair shop.
Great.
That works.
Yeah, that's great, because it's so important, because lots of times you have a bitch that's extremely typey but not great leg wise,
right?
And we constantly breed those beautiful side gate dogs to pretty bitches, and what you end up with, you hope, is a pretty bitch or a pretty animal that can move as well. And that's sort of how we work, is we breed pretty to sound, and
we don't
sound pretty.
We don't compromise on soundness.
No.
Yeah. Now, do you still have? Did you have Medallion frozen at all?
No, no.
We've had very poor luck using frozen semen, so I just gave it all away.
Okay.
To other breeders and see if they could use it.
Yeah, the breed itself is not great with frozen. There's a couple of vets you could rely on in the States to at least get something from, but generally they breed them to frozen and they get nothing, and then they breed them to frozen.
I think the mortality's poor, plus Poms usually have 1 or 2 puppies, so it's very much luck if you
get anything.
Get a bitch pregnant.
Yeah.
Now, some people have done it, but not us. We've tried several times.
And John is dead against frozen.
It's a waste of time and a waste of bitches.
Oh, it is, because it's not natural, right? It's not what's going to actually happen in real life. Again, so,
am I interested in breeding to a dog from the past? There's better dogs now than there were then. So.
Yeah. Like in Irish Water Spaniels, you still see aristocrat puppies coming out. I don't know how much they had frozen of them, but maybe it's because he was so ahead of his time that he's still stamping them. But you'll see a grandson or a son, and it's like, wow, that's one of the few breeds.
That's admirable that you have a dog that was ahead of his time, and breeders knew that. And went back to them and continued to do that. I think that's really admirable. Our breed is still working on soundness, and I don't, like John says, I don't know that you want to go backwards. They weren't better 20 years ago. They weren't better 30 years ago or 50 years ago.
You could go back a half a dozen years, because that's sort of the same generation.
Right, but not way back. Not as far back as
when we started, the first time I went to a Palm specialty, I looked at Chris and said, "We've got to be able to do better and breed sounder dogs than these. These dogs, the top winning dogs, were wide in the front and had low head carriage, and there's got to be a better way of doing it." But
that was our goal.
You did.
Oh,
yeah. You can always pick out a crescendo palm, so or someone that's related to one.
Yeah.
So now, what if? So let's say at the end of the American National assignment, you decide that that's that. What's going to happen? What do you like? Is there enough people that's carrying on your line that it will still be?
There's enough people doing their own thing that our dogs are behind that we would feel the breed is in good hands. I think every year we go to the national, I feel so happy that there are intelligent people breeding good dogs and they continue to do that. And that's all you can ask. I don't need them all to be.
There's no one who will do what we do because it's us doing it. They'll do what they do. So it won't, our dogs would never be carried on the same way, whether they have the same success or not. I have no idea, so. But.
Do you know offhand how many Best in Show winners you've produced?
We looked at that. We're at 200 Best in Shows, but we
probably
still need
200 Best in Shows of various dogs.
Yeah.
We've also had a lot of top producers. One of the breed's top producer in the States, he had 30-some Best in Shows, best champions, 30-some champions, American champions. And we have the greatest winning producing Palm bitch is also owned in the States. And but Best in Show winners, I don't know how many we've had.
Yeah, I have to.
It's like you ask us how many champions we've had. I have no idea. We don't keep those records.
Well, no, it's funny because we were looking at doing a timeline when you talked to us about this. And that's really the first time we've actually put it all down on paper because we just show them and, it's not insignificant to us because it's majorly significant. But we're moving on to the next dog. We sometimes just show one and win a Best in Show on it, and then it's back in the breeding program, and we decide we don't need to campaign that one or whatever. It's not every dog that does that, but we're happy when they do.
It's amazing how many prominent breeders are like that. Like I was talking earlier about Brian and Pat. Pat kept more records than Brian. Brian, when Pat told Brian or told me what they had produced, Brian was like, "Really?" He didn't realize how prominent they were.
You show them for the fun of showing them. I mean, there are people that we so enjoy showing too because we respect their opinion, we respect what they've done in the sport. And we love to show to them because they appreciate what we have. And I'd like to know what they think of this one or, whatever. It's one of the things we love to do. But, the records are not insignificant, but they're not the main goal. We don't lead train a puppy saying this is going to be our next Best in Show winner. We look at it against all the other dogs we've already bred.
And we don't campaign dogs anymore for records because we don't go to that many shows.
Right.
We're old people.
I think it's a good combination, though, with your handling background and your breeding background, that you choose the dogs you choose,
Right. So and sometimes it's for two different reasons.
Right.
And you can see that because oddly enough, I like the ones that show, and he likes the ones that, that are the next contribution to this is one we need to keep, because this is.
Yeah, there's a funny little thing. We had a bitch years ago called Jessica. I don't know what her registered name was. And Chris says, we're getting rid of that bitch. She's ugly. She's just ugly. And I said, no, we're not. We're going to breed her. She's going to give us good puppies. So we bred her, and she gave us Calvin Klein. So Chris has never said anything again. We're going to get rid of this one. I say, no, we're not.
It's just the way it works out. We look for different things in different dogs, and we seldom ever agree on when we have puppies running around. We look at them with the eye to what will we keep and what's a good addition to our breeding program. And maybe the litter mate may be better suited to go to someone else because he's, whatever, and that's something they need. So we keep them generally for ourselves is a more limited, when you look at it, well, we need this or we need that or whatever, but somebody else may need something else. So it works out. It's not like we're stuck with dogs that we really shouldn't have. We know what we want.
We also, not only did we borrow dogs, we lent dogs to people.
Right. Almost all of our dogs. The dog that went to Brazil, he spent most of his life with other breeders. He spent his whole
He's got a whole raft of
common sense.
He's got a whole raft of titles in Europe. He's Finnish champion. He's all kinds of champions in South America and Indonesia. Now he won Best of Breed at the American Palm Club Summer Specialty.
Right. And Award of Merit.
Yeah.
First Award of Merit. Yeah. But he was a dog we hardly had at home. I don't think he actually came home to breed bitches until he was 7.
Oh, wow.
Because we didn't need him, because we had 2 other dogs that we were using on a consistent basis. And we were happy to share the dog. That's one thing we can do. We don't have many puppies. We don't have many dogs available to people, who just phone up and say, yeah, I'm looking for a Pom. We seldom ever can help them there. But we can share dogs, and that means other breeders take advantage of that. And we're happy to do that. But as far as having things for sale, we seldom ever have anything for sale. Just the way it works out, they're Poms.
Yeah, it's hard to do a breeding program when you've got so few bitches. So for us, it's often good. Like our Charmed Robbery, the little black and tan dog that did a bunch of Eston shows the other year, he's in Virginia at stud. And we don't need him because we have nothing to breed to him until the next generation comes along, and then he comes back and we can use him. But at this point, we've got one daughter of his that's lovely. And he's just, he just sit here doing nothing. So he might as well go to some breeder and let people use him. So that's what he is. And
we're big on sharing. It's the only contribution we can do for the breed is we try to share the dogs. We're fussy about, if you just phone up and say, yeah, do you have a dog? You can lend me for a year.
Send your dog to me.
Yeah, right. We don't do that.
We have friends.
Right.
Group. There's a group of us that work together, and we lend dogs to them.
Yeah. And around the world, we're
you just have to come and get it.
Yeah, we're not shipping it.
And you have to bring it back.
Right.
But the same with, we had a dog from China, and he brought it here and lent it to us, and it was amazing. And then another dog we bred to the dog from China that won the national specialty. I think we're the only people in North America that bred to the dog. He was at Westminster and COVID started. Was in China, and he phoned and says, I don't think I could get home. I can go home and then get back for the national. I says, well, just fly up here and stay here till March. So he did, and I said to Chris, he's bringing Alan with him so we can breed to Alan.
And of course, we had nothing in season but one bitch.
One bitch came in season. So we got one bitch to him, and it wasn't the bitch I wanted to breed to him.
He won the breed at the Garden, and then he
won the national.
And then he won the national a month later.
Yeah, so.
But sometimes things just work out for the best, but sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've taken enough of your time. I want to ask one more question.
Okay.
What kind of advice would you give somebody new if they came up to you and said they wanted to start breeding dogs? Not necessarily Poms, just dogs.
I knew you'd ask that.
Look, I have written down advice.
Spend some time learning before you jump into breeding. And if you're going to buy a dog, buy it from looking at all kinds of dogs and finding what you like. Buy into that line and breed into that line, not breed off to something that's not even related to it. You're just going backwards.
And you're making the mistakes that are so obvious to anyone by.
So that's maybe a bit of an interruption there. Sorry, folks. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on that topic?
I totally agree with John, because when I started, John wasn't familiar with POMs or anything, but I spent 7 years looking at different breeders, how they bred, what their dogs looked like, and what did we want to do with that. And it was definitely line breeding within a family. We love this particular family of dogs, and that's where we went, and that's what we still do today if you were to go back and look at the pedigrees.
It's amazing how many people don't do that. They don't go and choose a family they like. They just pick a breed and
and breed to another dog. And I'm my favorite one is my line tends to do this, and your line is generally you bought a bitch and you bred it to a dog that had absolutely nothing in common with it.
And the resulting puppy is their line.
Right. Talk to me when you have 7 generations, and then maybe it's your line. But it's not your line taking someone's dog and someone's bitch and breeding them together. You have no way to look at the history of any of those dogs, only to make mistakes. We talked a lot amongst ourselves, the group of dog people down here, and we've had a constant conversation on where are we going in this sport. And there are several things happening. I mean, the whole doodle thing, the whole elitist attitude that a lot of breeders have, restricting breeding ability,
unlimited registrations. Yeah,
exactly. And trying to control 2 and 3 generations beyond if you sell it
or breed to it.
And I think you need to sit down and say to yourself, could I have worked within those restrictions if I were starting today? Because in some cases you are actually limiting the breed for generations to come, and I'm not sure.
Question.
And so it's been a big topic down here as to, are we shooting ourselves in the foot? And
we're not. Some other people are.
No, right. We're not saying we are, but we see this happening all the time. Of you sell a puppy to somebody, and not only can they not breed it, or not only unless they keep the puppy themselves, can they not even co-own it or do anything with it beyond that generation, but into 2 and 3 generations further in.
Years ago, when we bought Medallion, we asked Eleanor Miller if there were any restrictions or terms, and she says, with us, you buy it, you own it.
Yeah, Ted Eldridge was the same way. So I couldn't imagine, would we even have driven down to Middleburg, Virginia to look at Irish setters if that was going to be the case?
Right,
Probably
exactly.
Not.
No, not if Ted said, and you can breed the bitch, you have to breed it to my dog, or I have to approve the stud dog, and then any of the puppies you have to sell as pets, and anything you keep, you have to check with me on who you're going to breed her to.
Right. He was the same idea as Eleanor. He said, here's your dog.
Right, exactly. You bought it, you own it. And I think that this whole elitist attitude that we have of preserving our breeds, we're not doing that. We're setting them back. And it's easier to buy a doodle than it is to buy a purebred dog. And that's why I think, that's why I think we're in the state we're in, because you're not helping anyone if you don't help them. But if you restrict them, that is not helping them. Tell them they need to bring the bitch back, and you want to discuss who to breed her to. And if you don't agree with that, say, okay, you do your thing this litter, but the next litter, I want you to try this because I think that's who she should be bred to. That's helping. But
Exactly.
restricting,
That's mentorship. That's
exactly. Restricting it's going to be the elimination of purebred dogs if we don't stop and look at
no
this.
question.
Yeah.
I agree.
To show them they're wrong, and then they
To show them they're wrong. Or let them find it out for themselves, I mean, you see people making mistakes all the time, and it's not up to you to march up to them and say, that was really stupid. But there is a way to be a mentor, to be helpful, to try and explain why this is not better. What you did was not a step forward for this breed. And I honestly think that we have to be there for the future generations of people who want to do this. Or you might as well just throw in the towel now, because I don't want to be, doom and gloom, for sure. I don't, because
you're not, but you're just stating the way it is. So
right, the sport and the people are family to us. I mean, we have known and loved people that we have known and loved for the last 50 years. And we want that to continue for the people that are still in sport. But now it's just dog eat dog. It's nasty. It's not pretty.
Registrations are falling.
Yeah, and memberships in CKC are falling. We have to see that what we're doing is not helpful, and try to be mentors.
I've always said that I'm glad I showed dogs when I did, because I wouldn't want to be starting as a handler now.
It's got to be hard.
Oh no, exactly.
It's got to be.
I think you and Ian, beginning of our career, we showed dogs in the best time. The best time.
That's
for
what
sure.
I think.
Yeah, for sure.
We had the best judges.
Right. And we miss them terribly.
Yeah.
We do. Oh my gosh. And you look and think, I was going through some photos. I'm cleaning up around here, trying to get rid of stuff that's been around too long. So I was going through photos and like, she was my favorite. Oh, she's gone.
Yeah, right.
I know that's
gone.
So I say to Chris, I said, well, none of the judges know me, because all the judges that I showed under and liked are dead. It's just, there's none. It's just, and I mean, I remember showing under, Jim Trollinger, Alva Rose.
Jimmy Trollinger.
These are old.
One of my first group under Jimmy Trollinger.
Did you?
God. I love showing Howard Tyler. I love Howard Tyler for corgis. He was really.
I have a picture of Howard Tyler on my fridge. he's going over Gary's Beagle. I'm the only one. I'll say, that's Howard Tyler. No one else knows who Howard Tyler is.
They all go, yeah. Well, whatever.
You can make up whoever you want. We don't know who that is.
Right. You probably don't even know who that is. You just named him.
Yeah. Pick a name out of the box.
No, then we showed against them really, with Janie, and God.
I'll never forget watching Janie walk in with the Doberman bitch, Karina.
Yeah.
And I was so in awe. And I'll never get that. I'll never get that picture out of my head. It was so beautiful.
I never got to show against them at that level, but I remember going down to the Cherry Blossom circuit with George and watching them show.
Right.
So
and Janie and Mike, they were, I was like a young handler, and they were so supportive, and so friendly, and really great people
and mentors for sure. They helped you out, you helped them out. It was
I won groups on Palms under Janie. You won specialty winners under Janie.
Mm-hmm.
And then she showed one other time your dog didn't show. She says, I love your dog, but he didn't show, so I'm not putting him up.
Oh, she used to tell you how it was right in the table sometimes.
Exactly. Where'd you get this one?
Yeah. Your dog is nice, but the dog 3 dogs from you he's the one I take home.
Right. Yeah. And it's nice to have that kind of relationship or whatever with people you totally respect. I really
you can't even have that anymore. You can't.
No.
You just can't. They see you talking at the table, somebody asks you.
Right.
Oh, well. Well, I've taken enough time of yours, so I really appreciate your time.
So much for asking us. We really
hopefully
appreciate
you can find enough there to edit something out.
I don't think there'll be any editing. That was good.
There's not a take two, is there?
I'll call you. I had to redo. I'll tell you off screen. I'll tell you off screen.
Right.
All right, guys.
Okay. Thanks, Will. Take care.
See ya.
Thanks, guys. And I knew that'd be a great interview. Chris and John were always fun. We stayed on afterwards and just kept talking. It was so much fun. But if you like what you see here, make sure you press the like, share, and subscribe button. And don't forget about the podcast, The Dog Show Drive, Canadian edition with myself and Yvonne. All right. Take care. Bye-bye now.